If you are a woman or a woman of color, a melanated woman who looks like me, I need you to stop and watch this video, because what I'm getting ready to talk about is affecting you right now. It is going to affect your future, and it's going to affect the future of your daughters. This woman who is behind me, her name is Arian Simone. She is fighting a battle right now around capital funding for women of color. Just to share a little bit of the backstory of what's going on. So Arian Simone and her co-founder have an organization that is called the Fearless Fund. They build relationship with different organizations that have money and that are interested in investing in startups that are owned and ran by women of color, different backgrounds of women of color. The fund that they run is less than 1% of all of the funding that is given out for people to start businesses. There is a conservative group organization that has been targeting this particular organization, hitting them with lawsuits to prevent them from being able to continue to give out this percentage of funds every year to women of color. She may never see this video, but in spirit, I want her to know that she is not standing alone, that there are women out here who care about her mission and care about what she is doing. Not only Black women are benefiting from the work that she does every day, women of color, of all demographics of color, are benefiting from the work that she does every day. And women overall, because she is opening up doors for women to be able to start businesses, to be able to be financially independent, and to be able to have space to cultivate the dreams that we have for ourselves. This woman is inspiring. She exudes so much that I aspire to be in my life. If you are a woman who desires to make great impact in this world, do it. Show up. We need you to show up fearlessly. Be prepared for pushback, because the love, the care, the commitment, the dedication, the fearlessness that you show up with every day is going to challenge the system. And people don't like that. The system benefits from you and I being stuck in life. And remember, everyone does not need to know the intricate details of all of your moves. You don't need to post everything on social media. You just show up and have great impact in the lives that you meet every single day. That is how we make change. Go out there and be fearless.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Ask Al Terry Henry, and this is Al Terry Henry moment. I just want to let you know, man, we waking up, man. While y'all being blinded about everything else, they lying to you in the social media about Tupac and about finding his killer and about Trump and all these other things. My brother is a border patrol, my play brother. He's a border patrol. And he said they just opened up the prison doors and let 11,000 immigrants from prison, gang-related, everything else, into the country. 11,000. They're having a crisis right now because the sheriff of the local town that's right by it can't even keep up. So they're calling for extra marshals and sheriffs and deputies and FBI from all over to come help contain the situation. But they just let them into the country because we waking up now. We all about money. We're about family. We're about wealth. Most of the Black people, at least. And so because we're not producing the numbers for their private prison sectors and all the things that the rappers trying to get us to fall into the trap, they're bringing people in for that. So if crime increase, you know why.
We anti-bully, we anti-big dog, we anti-OG, we anti all this shit, cause y'all niggas ain't showed a nigga shit, y'all ain't taught a nigga shit, y'all ain't did nothing but told a nigga something. This all y'all niggas do, run your fucking mouth. This all you niggas do, run your mouth. Show a nigga something, put a nigga in place and go step by step to help a nigga if you wanna help a nigga, and stop speaking on shit you ain't gonna help a nigga on. That's my biggest problem with you fake ass niggas. Like, stop talking about a nigga being broke if you ain't finna help but to get no money. Don't talk about Buddy's shoes if you ain't finna help him buy them no shoes. Don't talk about Buddy still wearing the same pair of pants every fucking day if you ain't finna help Buddy buy him a pair of pants. Don't talk about but a haircut not being shaped up. If you ain't gave him $20 to $50 to cut his fucking.
Takes a motherfucker not being scared of the stuff that the white folks done train you against. You see what I'm saying? So I done went to the satanic stuff, and guess what? It's only our ancestors. I said, hey, it's us. We the ancestors. We're under this stuff they call Satan, ritual, black magic. And your people scared of it, and ain't nothing but the doggone underworld realm, the realm of Osiris, called what? The Black Rites of Osiris. You can get that in go get Robert Temple's book. There's a whole section on the Black Rites of Osiris. But you scared of all that. But you don't want to deal with that because you're scared of the devil.
Too much sex decreases your dopamine.
Yeah.
Sharing energies with different women throws off your own energy.
Because you probably the reason why a woman can't find a man. Because when you stick something in a woman, all the energy that you have is going inside of her. Because you don't want nobody, that woman think that she don't need nobody because you just blast out her energy and your energy is strong. What? They know what I'm talking about.
So I asked God how we could identify who our real friends were and listen to what he gave me. God said sometimes what appears to be your circle is actually your cell, and the people in that circle aren't your friends, they're your cellmates. The only reason why y'all are so close is because y'all are chained to the same habits. If you broke the chain that the habit was attached to, y'all would have nothing in common. This is the part that got me though. God said a cellmate only gives you a caged mindset. They encourage you to stay where you are because nobody has ever made it out. But a real friend gives you a mindset of freedom. They encourage you to be the first one to make it out, even if that means that they have to be left behind. So make sure that that's actually your circle of friends and not just a cell full of inmates who have committed the same crime.
You probably thought that the discovery of a tomb is a rare event. Well, no. The reason why we don't have any tombs is because in the 16th and 1700s, the Europeans was consuming mummies at a massive rate. They were used for medicine, they were crushed up, and they were also used for paintings like this one right here, and the color was Egyptian brown. Now mummies was used crushed up to make paintings like this until the 1960s. Mummies were also used and destroyed for mummy parties. So this went on during the Victorian period, okay? So these unwrapping parties was just like an Avon party or a Mary Kay party, where they would take the mummy and they would literally have a party unwrapping them. Now, consuming a mummy was thought to heal everything from headaches, epilepsy. Even King Charles II had king drops, is what he called it. This was a drink that contained human skull with alcohol. So you gotta understand, in the 16th and 1700s, you can go to your local CVS of that time and get your Egyptian Kemet bits over the counter. So understand, we lost a lot of mummies during that time. A lot. That's a span over 1,000 years. Now, the only reason why we have famous mummies preserved like King Tut, it was very carefully hidden away in secret tombs. Now, this is a part of African history that we'll never get back. So just know that the main reason why we don't have any major tomb discoveries in ancient Kemet, present day Egypt, is because during the 16th and 1700s, they were consumed by the Europeans.
So what I'm telling y'all is real. This is a frequency war, people. It's an energy war that you wasn't even aware of. You coming outside thinking you hungry and shit. I'm hungry. No, you ain't. They are emitting signals with these colors to your electromagnetic field, aka your aura. Boom. And they're choosing the colors that they know specifically will leave you locked on a low frequency. Right? The only color
so sorry to bother you. You must be Amanda.
Why did you come here?
In my line of work, you have to understand the patterns that govern the world. That can help you see the future. And I knew something was coming.
I don't understand. What do you mean?
We are seeing ongoing cyber attacks across the country.
The truth is much scarier.
What is the truth?
We're gonna be okay, right?
Aren't you the one who always said, if you're not paranoid by now, it's too late?
Haven't you been picking up on what's going on out there? We've all been deserted. There is no going back to normal.
Why did New York Post bring up my prior criminal history just because I did a positive song for the UAW?
Let me say this to the racist New York Post. Out of all the news networks, I dislike y'all the most. Don't make me go and find out what your workers pay like. Cause if it ain't right, I might make them go on strike. Okay, I've been to prison, bumped my head a couple times. But what that got to do with my big 3 rhymes? New York Post just dissed me in a paper. Talking about my 10 and 30-year-old prison capers. I guess they got the vapors, cause I am not a raper. Like most of these owners of these news channels and papers. Now let me say something since you bringing up my cases. Let's talk about your company that's full of nothing but racists. I tried to do the right thing, but y'all just did me wrong. So now I'm combating your news article with a song. How dare you try to say the union using me for black folks when I'm part of the union? So where did they get that, folks? They need to check their facts, folks. Come with some real exact quotes. You probably just got high off what I said, cause it was that dope. I guess they got a problem with me having a job. They rather see me on the streets trying to kill and rob people that look like me. I know why you don't like me, but after this here, you gon' know not to incite me. New York Post can get ghosts, y'all irrelevant. Y'all ain't doing nothing, just like a girl that's celibate. I did something positive, you turned it to a negative. But what you need to do is stay out my way and let me live. To the one that wrote this article, go check your brain particles, cause your story stank like a fart I did a while ago. Gemini Ramona OG, yeah, that's me. And my message ain't changed when it come to the big 3. And let me say this, while you chillin' in your suit, you best believe I'm checking into a slander lawsuit. Cause I ain't bother y'all, so why you wanna bother me? I'm Gemini Ramone, Flint's God MC. Woo! And I'm still standing on what I was standing on. I'm riding with the union, UAW, GM, Stellantis, Ford. Y'all need to pay us like we should get paid. Y'all need to treat us how we should be treated. I stand on that. Yeah, New York Post. Woo, woo. You know what it is. You got the right one. Facts.
On the waters, Malcolm X revealed some very vital, unconventional details on what Negroes, or rather African Americans, were truly considered to be as a nationality of race prior to being called or labeled a Negro.
Aborigine, which means what? Black folks. You never find a white aborigine. Aborigines are called natives, or they're always dark-skinned people. You and I are aborigines. But you don't like to be called an aborigine.
Malcolm X stated that the rock landed on us after he returned across the waters because he learned new things. He learned that the rock had truly landed on us and that we were from these lands. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. also stated in his I Have a Dream speech that we are held in exile in our own homeland.
The Negro is still languished in the corners of American society, finds himself in exile in his own land.
Now we have a lot of scholars out there and individuals are missing the point. How can you be held in exile in your own homeland without it being your own homeland? The tens of millions of black Americans, or rather Indians, who disappeared in 1492 did not all die in the Holocaust inflicted within America. Hundreds of thousands were shipped to Europe and Africa as Indian slaves. The whole slave trade story was given to all of us in reverse. A mass colony of Africans were not shipped from Africa to America. The truth is that black Indians were shipped from America to Europe. They were then shipped from Spain to Africa as commodity for African resources. These black Indians, now mistaken as African Americans, were shipped back to America and classified as African slaves. This part of our history is what the school systems fail to mention in history programs. The American Society was an organization formed in 1816 with the purpose of transporting free African Americans, or rather Indian slaves, classified as Negroes back then, from the United States to settle on the west coast of Africa. During the decades, the society operated and transported more than 12,000 people to Africa, and the African nation of Liberia was founded. The term African American to refer to all black people was endorsed only since 1988, but was against the desires of the majority of black people. In fact, the term was endorsed by only 5 people, including Reverend Jesse Jackson and Ramona Edlin, leading the charge as a result of a gathering called the African American Summit, without the input of the majority of black people. Author Avis J. Smith went to the district court in Washington, D.C. to stand against this term, as well as against the notion that a small group of powerful individuals should be able to compel the masses into adopting it. The systematic destruction of the Native Americans, or rather Native Indigenous Aborigine people, and their way of life was not only one of recorded history's greatest tragedies, but as with the slave trade, deeply spiritually wounding to all involved. The utter decimation of their culture is one of the most shameful aspects of history, the extent of the damage still being downplayed and denied entry into textbooks and history lessons to this day.
We are the only people on this entire planet who have been taught to sing and praise our demeanment. I am a bitch. I am a whore. I am a gangster. I am a thug. I am a dog. If you can train people to demean and degrade themselves, you can oppress them forever. You can even program them to kill themselves, and they won't even understand what happened. Words by Dr. Francis Cress Welsing.
You are absolutely right about that cave. There are many beautiful mud fossils to be found there. From the Three Whales Rock to, of course, the cave of the petrified snake. But it's not just in the beautiful country of Thailand you'll find the evidence of these mud fossils. And it's far from just the titans or the giant trees. The rocks were quite literally alive. And if you don't think they lied to us about petrification and the act of fossilization, just take a look at a few of these examples. Petrification happens a lot quicker than you think. Makes you really rethink those dinosaur fossils they tell us are millions of years old, eh? Unless they had engines back then. Many of the NPCs will come into the comments and scream pareidolia. And that's fine. Let them keep their heads in the clouds, imagining faces in the clouds, seeing cute little bunnies. For those of us with open eyes, you can truly see this beautiful world for what it really was. The evidence of how much larger our realm was can be found all around us. But the mind is useless if the eyes do not choose to see, or have been made intentionally blind. And that is what these parasites have done so well, blinded us to the truths hidden in plain sight all around us. Question everything, friends. Until next time.
I'll show you guys who cut down the trees. Check it out. Now, when I made part 1 of that video, the only scripture I had to go by was Daniel 4:9, which goes like this.
I saw in the visions of my head upon my bed, and behold, a watcher and an holy one came down from heaven. He cried aloud and said thus, Hew down the tree and cut off his branches. Shake off his leaves and scatter his fruit. Let the beasts get away from under it and the fowls from his branches. Nevertheless, leave the stump of his roots in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass in the tender grass of the field. And let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let his portion be with the beasts in the grass of the earth.
Okay, here we have the scripture from the Dead Sea Scroll version. Okay, now, in the Dead Sea text entitled The Book of Giants, the Nephilim, sons of the fallen angel, Shemyaza, named Aya and Oya, experience dream visions in which they visit a world garden and see 200 trees being felled by heavenly angels. Felled means cut down. Not understanding the purpose of this allegory, they put the subject to the Nephilim Council, who appoint one of their number, Mohawi, to go on their behalf to consult Enoch, who now resides in an earthly paradise. To this end, Mohawi then rose up into the air like the whirlwinds and flew with the help of his hands like winged eagle over the cultivated lands and crossed Solitude, the giant desert, and he caught sight of Enoch and he called to him. Enoch explains that the 200 trees represent the 200 watchers. Okay, now, so you understand that. Let's go back to the book of Enoch, okay? And right here it says, and it came to pass when the children of men had multiplied that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. And the angels, the children of heaven, saw and lusted after them and said to one another, come, let us choose us wives from among the children of men and beget us children. So anyways, they all get together on this mountain, and as you can see here, then swear they all together and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. And they were in all 200 who descended in the days of Jared on the summit of Mount Hermon. Okay, now let's go back over to the Dead Sea Scrolls. Okay, as you can see here, Enoch explains that the 200 trees represent the 200 watchers. Remember, the 200 watchers were originally angels. They were 200 fallen angels, okay? They were to watch over the earthly beings, but they decided to come down and mate with the earthly women, which is what caused the Nephilim. Okay, so while the felling of their trunks signified their destruction in a coming conflagration and deluge, that means the flood was coming. That's why these angels were sent down to cut down these trees, okay? And just like I showed you in Enoch 66:2, you know, God sent the angels to work at the trees. So anyway, now keep in mind that there were 200 trees for the 200 angels, but I've only found a few of those trees. Okay, now, as you can see here in the Dead Sea Scrolls and from the book of Enoch and from Daniel from the Holy Bible, the giants did not cut down the trees. God sent angels here to cut down the trees because he was getting ready to flood the earth. And the only thing that would have been big enough to climb those trees to the heavens would have been the giants. So God knew what he was doing when he sent the angels here to cut them down before he even flooded the earth. And I have the Dead Sea Scrolls to...
Did you know that in our not-so-distant past, babies were created and incubated en masse? This happened and was showcased as attractions at the world fairs and even in New York's Coney Island. Can you even imagine carnival attractions where people paid to watch babies growing in incubators? Where were the parents? What happened to all of the babies? Well, have you heard of the orphan trains? They were packed off and shipped out west to help repopulate the great Tartarian cities found abandoned across the land. They were sent to humongous orphanages, and the people were able to get orphans to work their farms and factories. Free labor was abundant, and it was needed to rebuild after the last reset. There is loads of evidence showing that the original Cabbage Patch Kids were these orphans which people just simply picked up and took home like fresh produce. Many children were basically indentured servants and were subjected to lifelong slave labor and sexual abuse. Everything they taught you is a lie. America was covered with empty Tartarian cities, left to rot after the Great Reset, and those that followed grew a few millions babies to repopulate and rebuild. They dug out those cities and started over. Research Tartaria and ask questions. Suspend your disbelief. Like, follow, and share.
Y'all seen this yet? Project Looking Glass. What you know about it? Check this out.
Some of you might know me because of a story I broke last March concerning something called the Guardians of the Looking Glass. Basically, what we had here is a technology that was built which would give those people who operated that technology, of course, a huge advantage because they could see and view timelines within a stream, within a field. You know, the awareness of this technology came to us through certain whistleblowers, and one of them was a guy by the name of Dan Burish, who went into some detail about how that technology was acquired. It starts at the end of the Second World War. It was the first time that the United States ever came into contact with certain ETs, you could say, who began appearing over the skies of the United States. And their appearance, again, was accompanied by crashes and captures of both the craft and the pilots piloting that craft. And it leads directly to the formation of the breakaway civilization, that which was created by one ultra secret society that was called Majestic 12. They who have ultimately come into possession of the Looking Glass material and time travel and other technologies ever since. So between 1947 and the early 50s, there were a series of crashes that took place, not just one, and they started the whole back engineering process. And they also had captured extraterrestrial beings. And the Looking Glass has ended up in S4 Area 51.
The program out at Area S4 consisted of 3 projects: Project Galileo, Project Sidekick, and Project Looking Glass. Project Galileo dealt with gravity propulsion. Project Sidekick dealt with a beam weapon that had a neutron source and was focused by a gravity lens. Project Looking Glass dealt with the physics of seeing back in time.
What they really discovered, in principle, is that the ETs are not really truly ETs. They're us from the future. They call them J-rods.
A long period of introduction into needing, you know, say an ABE, an alien. I call him J-Rod, of course that's what they call him, but that wasn't his, you know, I don't know if that was his real name or not. That's the name that the linguist gave him. So he knew J-Rod.
Came from Zeta Reticuli, which is what we are going to colonize in the future. And they traveled back 52,000 and 45,000 years respectively.
State point of origin? Okay, yesterday you told us you traveled, and I quote, thousands of light years to get here. Yes. So you're human.
To exactly before this time, before this event takes place, for different reasons. What they found was that there are 3 types of beings. There's 2 J-rods, which were called P-52s. The P-52s were for 52,000 years in the future, and the P-45s were from 45,000 years in the future. And the P-45s weren't interested in helping us. They were just here to harvest genetic materials which they had lost over the course of tens of thousands of years of exposure. The P-52s also returned because they came back and they were trying to tell us our consciousness can affect our timeline. Not just the timeline, but also cosmic events. They were trying to tell us that the cosmic event, which is about to happen, can be affected by our collective consciousness. It's going to play out in 2 ways. It could end up with a timeline that prevails that's an organic timeline, where mankind will begin to wake up and en masse, and that we will change the trajectory of that course by raising our consciousness, and then there's going to be some event, and our change in consciousness will actually set in motion a positive version of how that event affects us. We've heard about ancient civilizations like Atlantis or Lemuria or Mu, and they come and go. They always seem to end in some huge cataclysm or some destruction, some destructive event happens, society blows up. It's like a loop. Eventually you would have to crack that loop. So maybe here is the chance to actually break that loop. And the other timeline they were talking about that may prevail is this transhumanist timeline. Along comes 2022, and it's been like 10 years since the last Looking Glass whistleblowers had been out there talking about it, Dan Bush and a few others. But this suddenly appeared, this group calling themselves the Guardians of the Looking Glass. We are the Guardians of the Looking Glass. We're a group of former intelligence officers and military officials who have come together to release classified information about future events to come. Our knowledge comes from our work on the Looking Glass artifact, first discovered in Iraq. During this time, the artifact was activated by the US military and connected to computers. We were able to see dozens of future timelines and the convergent singularities that led to two possible outcomes by the year 2030. In one outcome, humanity awakens and the current order is dismantled, and an event occurs, and instead of this event being negative, it is a positive one. In the other outcome, the current structure remains in place, a nuclear war takes place along with many horrible events, then the event occurs, and instead of being a positive event, it's a negative one. I'm going to talk about what we can do about it, and that's got to do with the positive timeline. We have opportunity here. The J-Rods, they told us that basically they were talking about these two primary timelines. That there is a future where a possibly pole shift related environmental catastrophe is averted and does not happen. And relative to this different timeline, the future that generated the J-Rods as we know them will never evolve from our own, and we have taken a new path. So in this timeline, which also the Guardians saw, there is a probability of that happening, and so they talk about that as well. If the post-global pole shift environmental catastrophe does not occur, the benefits could be to alternatively produce a human consciousness, liberating evolutionary leapfrog, and a level of enlightenment among the masses that will produce a new set of future timeline trajectories that will compassionately steer the course of humanity into a virgin future of untold beneficial futures and heights, and in fact fulfill the original evolutionary directive to evolve consciousness of humanity to its optimum potential as future creative agencies in the universe. These messages that we got from these J-Rods decades ago are trying to reinforce that idea, and now we're starting to, maybe the reason this came up now is because we're kind of at that last moment where we could make it happen.